So the way this is going to work is I have the recorder running. I'm going to ask questions, and feel free to answer as long as you like. You could also go on tangents if you want to. Eventually, we'll transcribe it for the next month's edition of Issues. And after that comes out, it'll come out on the YouTube channel.
Cool.
So starting simply, what's your name and where's your project located?
My name is Isabelle Karina, and I play in a few bands, but I'm most known for Process/Sleep, and we're located in Greenville, North Carolina. I also play in Dr. Goodsex, located in Greenville, North Carolina, and a few other projects here and there. So.
And what is your role in the band Process?
I play guitar, songwrite, and scream/sing. Mostly scream. We don't really do any singing. Yeah.
And you said you songwrite?
Mm-hmm.
Lyrics and music?
Yeah. It's a songwriting process for Process. The songwriting process for Process is split pretty evenly between me and the other guitarist, Jackson. Usually what happens is we both will just write a full song, like drums, guitar, vocals, bring it. We'll kind of workshop it a small bit, and like, everyone will add their own little part to it and their own flair. But yeah, it's kind of how it looks like there.
And as of right now, how many people are in the band?
We are currently a 4-piece. We just had some lineup changes, but things are starting to come together really smoothly right now.
And about how many songs do you have written?
For Process or just overall?
For Process.
I'd say we were talking about practice today. We have about, I think, 12 songs, 13 songs written, and it's starting to become kind of a problem for live shows because I remember we kind of just slowly adding songs. We used to have a really short set list, and we played this one show at a above board skate park in Greensboro, and I think we played like a 9-song set, and we didn't really realize how long that really is and how tiring. And that show had a bunch of other problems, but realized it's a lot of songs, so we're having to start to alternate and choose what songs we're going to do for what show, which is nice to have that freedom. And it's nice to be able to choose, what songs we can do and have, different vibes. Like we play some shoegaze bands, for example. We might play some more airy, some are more like songs that fit that, or if we play with some metal bands or more hardcore bands, we'll play some stuff that's like more like that.
Okay. And so is that sort of the range of the band, like somewhere between shoegaze and metal?
I'd say we started out as we really enough started out as like a pop punk band a while ago, and slowly we just kind of didn't really listen to that stuff anymore. I mean, I still do, but the other members didn't. And currently we're just playing kind of emotional hardcore, screamo, scrams, whatever you want to call it. But we recently have been like me and Jackson have a bit of a divergence to where he writes more kind of like power violence-y, emo violence, whatever you want to call it, and I've been writing a bit more like kind of like twinkly emo riffs.
Mm-hmm.
And more shoegazy stuff. But we're trying to work to meld that together.
That's nice. How long have you and Jackson been collaborating?
I think for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, if I recall correctly.
And how long have you been playing an instrument?
I've been playing guitar for, let's see, I'd say 8 years now. 7 maybe, 7, about 8. And played drums since I was around like 16, 17, I think. So.
What made you want to pick the guitar up?
Well, it's a bit of a funny story about that. My I wanted to play bass originally, actually, but my mom and dad were like, why do you want to play bass? And my dad said, I'll let you play bass, but I won't buy a bass for you or a bass amp, but I will buy a guitar and a guitar amp for you. And then I wanted to play drums, and my parents were like, that's going to be too loud. And then once they realized that an electric guitar is quite a loud instrument, they were like, okay, you can just do whatever you want now.
And what music were you listening to around that time that you started to play?
I've always had a pretty diverse musical palette. Like, I'd say, let's see, I started playing when I was 12, 13. I was listening to a bunch of Nirvana. Like, that's kind of what got me to want to play the guitar a lot. A lot of grunge, like Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, but I was also really into, like, pop punk and, like, a lot of, like, so-called mall emo. And, like, say, like, My Chemical Romance and stuff like that. And I remember there's this thing called the Real Emo copy pasta. For those of you out there who aren't familiar, it's copy pasta is just, piece of text that you copy around as a little joke. And it's called the Real Emo copy pasta because it's just saying how all that's not real emo. And, like, the actual real emo is all these hardcore bands. And I remember seeing that when I was, like, 13 and, like, oh, well, then what is real emo? And I look it up, like bands like Orchid and Page 99, and I was like, oh, this is actually really good. And also, being into Nirvana, I was also really, lack of better words, obsessed with Kurt Cobain, just as a figure. Just very interesting life, interesting personality. And I remember he has a top 50 albums list. He has, like, Swans on it, Flipper, Meat Puppets. Well, and just a lot of, like, I mean, he has, like, the Shags.
Where did you find this list?
It's in his journals that were published, if I remember correctly, which, in retrospect, I actually regret buying because I think it's a breach of his privacy, but I was a kid, and I read it, and it's already out there.
I read them too, but I didn't remember.
Had some really good picks in there.
I was sort of taken aback by how much, person based on that journal. Like, just like, I mean, I was reading it when I was in high school, but it felt like he was in high school when he made it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even his handwriting has this sort of, it doesn't look like the handwriting of, like, a 40-year-old,
Yeah, it has an adolescent quality to it.
Exactly.
I think that's why Nirvana resonates, especially. I'm not saying that Nirvana and Kurt Cobain is only for high schoolers, but I think the reason why usually Nirvana finds its way, into high schoolers of any age, no matter what, no matter the year, is because of that quality Kurt Cobain had, where he just knew how teenagers thought.
Yeah, that's where you connect with it. If you're going to connect with Nirvana, you're going to connect with Nirvana when you're a teenager.
Oh, definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about your childhood and your background. Are you from a family of musicians?
Kinda. My dad, he played he plays electric guitar. He's played it since what's up? He played it in excuse me, words got jumbled.
Mm-hmm.
My dad played guitar ever since I think he was 16, and he grew up around late 70s, early 80s, so he was really big into playing a lot of hair metal and stuff. But he always adapted with the times when it came to music, like when grunge hit, he was big into that. When a lot of, like, 2000s, like, modern rock came out, he was into that. So he has a fairly open mind.
He play in bands?
Yeah, he's actually he's from Philadelphia, but his family moved here when he was 18, and that's why I'm in Greenville, because he was there. He played in some bands around here. I remember him telling me a story how he saw the Ramones in Greenville at the Attic, an old venue here.
My goodness.
Who, even funnier story, I actually play in a band now called Libido Patrol, where the guitarist actually was at that show that my dad was at, which is a crazy connection to make.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was that?
Rhodey.
Okay.
Yeah, which like blew my mind. I think Rhodey.
I believe that. Rhodey's a cool guy.
Yeah.
What about your mom? Do you play anything?
My mom played. She sings, and she has the most beautiful singing voice in the world. Most people on my mom's side do. She played I cannot recall if it's the flute or clarinet. Don't kill me, Mom. She plays either the flute or clarinet in like high school, and she plays piano too. And my sister, she plays guitar, sings. I think she has perfect pitch personally. She always angers me because she has the most beautiful voice and she like never uses it. I'm like, why is everyone with like amazing voices don't create music?
It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or another thing that I've seen happen is someone is an absolutely amazing musician, and then they get married and have kids.
Yeah, that always really bums me. That's kind of what my dad did. Like when I didn't know my dad played guitar honestly until I picked it up myself. And my dad, he's an older northern guy. He's very reserved. He's not a bad guy. He's just different time, different period, different generation. But once I was born, he stopped playing guitar. And I remember when I picked up guitar, there's an old acoustic in the corner that used to be my sister's, and my dad started playing, and I was like, oh my God, you can play guitar? He's like, yeah, I play it all the time. I'm like, why have I never seen you play? He's like, I don't know, I just stopped. I'm like, why? And he told me he plays now. He actually has his own guitar now.
Oh, nice.
And in retrospect, he told me that he regretted and he shouldn't have done that. And I think he jams with his band now occasionally, just with his friends, just having some beers and
that's good,
chilling out, which I think is always good to do.
Yeah, when I went to see my dad when I was in my early 20s, and he taught me to play Walk Don't Run by the Ventures, surf music. And then he's like, that's the only thing I can play. Like, well, that's a good choice.
Oh, I love surf music. I remember I got a Ventures record a few days ago at the record store, actually. It's like for $4.
So what about now? What are you? Is there anything you're working on in process? Like, is there any like recordings on the horizon? Tours being planned?
So currently with process, we're working on getting everything back together, getting us back tight as a unit because we have a new bassist, and it's gonna be really quick. But we have a split planned with the band Abuse Oppression from Michigan. Hopefully, it will be on vinyl. Hopefully, just depends on how. At the very least, it'll be on tape, and on streaming platforms. We're planning on eventually releasing our stuff on streaming platforms. We talked about it for a long time because we were on the fence because we all really don't support Spotify or Apple Music or any of that.
Same.
But I forgot who told us this. Was someone said I remember. Just bring it back to Nirvana. It's like there's a censored version of In Utero at Walmart where they changed the song Rape Me to Waif Me. And like people ask Kurt Cobain, well, why'd you let that happen? I was like, so in punk rock. And he said, well, most people buy their music at Walmart. And you need to, there's going to be people who can't come to shows, who don't know what Bandcamp is or anything, who all they have is like YouTube and maybe Spotify. And that's how they're going to find music. And if they find your band, then they can get into other stuff.
True.
So that's kind of the opinion I think we've taken. We're not going to have everything on there. I think we're still going to have some Bandcamp, But we're going to hopefully put a condensed demo tape on there or a single or something in the future.
it's interesting to see how it works out. I think Spotify is better for finding a larger audience, sure.
Mhm.
I'm not so sure about the pay, but I mean, I'm not against it. Well, I'm not against putting your music on it.
I know what you mean.
I wouldn't blame a band for doing that at all. I'm just. It's the only game in town too. That's the other thing. Like, there's not really, unless you're selling analog media direct to people.
Yeah.
Which is great, but but other than that, Spotify's the only game in town nowadays.
It's like that I think the Walmart comparison's the perfect one. They have a monopoly on music. Like Walmart, how Walmart and Target are to records back then is how Spotify and Apple Music. Like, yeah, you do have your indie record stores, which would be Bandcamp or something, or even say posting on YouTube or something. But
yeah, and you might end up with the Process song on some kind of random selection of some playlist or something like that catches someone's ear. And that's the benefit of Spotify. That's how it's kind of replaced radio in a way.
Yeah.
It's because radio, what I always liked about radio is that it's so scattershot. You're just beaming it out to whoever happens to be tuning into it.
Yeah. It's a big gamble.
It's a big gamble, and there's like, how do you even strategize? You can't. You just do it.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that. But I think Spotify is more basically taking the place of that role. I mean, the radio still exists, but it's not really what it used to be.
Yeah, I feel like on a related note, especially one thing that's a kind of a side tangent, I believe that or it's very interesting how big like hardcore has gotten within the past few years compared to any other like kind of not obscure but niche genre, and in turn all hardcore subgenres, even like say like emotional hardcore and such, screamo and scrams have just like really been resonating with a lot of younger people, and have been like the band Versus Self, I know, they have hundreds of thousands of listeners. They sell out like 1,000-cap venues, and that is insane for such a abrasive niche. I mean, some of that is almost akin to noise, and it has a lot of connections with like noise and power electronics and truly like abrasive stuff, which I love. But it's so strange how some of these bands and artists are breaking from that, and not in a bad way, but they're getting successful.
Yeah.
And that's kind of beautiful to me.
That's the goal, though. I mean, the record industry has hollowed out a lot of the pop charts, in a weird way. Whereas like more bands that don't sell quite as much get up on Spotify and stuff like that, So you do have these like other genres of music, like hardcore, for instance, that previously wouldn't have gotten anywhere near as high as it is now, that are actually getting higher because there isn't that concentrated top 40 the way that there used to be. So, I mean, it's actually a good thing for DIY bands and, anyone trying to do something a little bit out of the ordinary, left center.
Definitely.
So tell me about Dr. Goodsex. What's your idea behind that?
So Dr. Goodsex is kind of improv, jam, noise, stoner metal, freeform, jazz, almost. I'm just throwing words together. But, an improv, noise / stoner metal kind of collective. And I'm the only consistent member, although I'm most frequently joined by Lars of Paper Skulls. I play drums, and the main thing is I just invite musicians up and to be, hey, join in, just make some noise, and let's just try to make some evil, dark sounding stuff. And I really enjoy it. I thought about recording some stuff for it, especially with the Lars lineup, just as a duo.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fun. I got the name from an Orchid song called Dr. Goodsex, which is a reference to the Kubrick film Dr. Strangelove, which I actually recently rewatched, and it's one of my favorite films.
Fun one.
But
so, you have now. Do you still have available a demo online
for Dr. Goodsex?
Or Dr. I think it was for Process.
Oh, for Process. For Process, yes. We have a demo tape available on Bandcamp, and it's actually was just posted to YouTube. I decided it was about time to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I never thought of it. So you can find it on our YouTube channel or Bandcamp, which is Process X Sleep on Bandcamp, and then on YouTube it's just Process//Sleep.
Okay, right. Is there anything you'd like to promote?
Promoted Process Sleep social media. We are playing a show. I think this will be published by the time that happened. So, we're going to be releasing a split with Abuse Repression eventually. And that will be out within the next few months.
Very good.
Hopefully. And I'm also working on a solo project that I have not really talked much about.
Okay.
But I still don't have a name for it. It's some pretty odd stuff. It's mostly electronic, pretty much actually exclusively electronic.
Nice.
And I think I play occasional guitar overdubs, but that, and I do vocals and I actually scream over it. It's some weird stuff. Like there's one song where it's almost like a drum and bass track, and I'm screaming over it.
I'm intrigued by this. Sounds very interesting.
I'll have to send you some demos after.
That would be awesome.
But so far I have about 3 or 4 tracks. I'm trying to get together a 5-track demo EP.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a lot of fun with that because that's just going to be a solo project. And that should be out, I think, within the next 2 months.
Oh, that's so good. I really look forward to that one.
It's very... what made me do it was 2 things. Seeing Domestic Atrix live, and then seeing P.T. Burnham recently.
Yeah.
And just seeing that, I was like, man, I could do that.
Yeah.
And not in like a bad way of like condescending, like more of like, this is awesome. Like I want to do that. Like they're just by themselves on stage and are so full. They don't have a band and they still make beautiful music. And that's amazing to me.
They're both extremely talented. And good friends of mine.
One more thing, it's very different playing a solo project than being in a band because I'm so used to having to work with like at minimum 3 other people. So like realizing, oh well, if I want something, I can just do it. But also, if I want something, I gotta do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
it's maximum portability.
Oh, definitely.
Well.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything you were hoping that I would get talking about with you that we haven't covered yet?
I think we covered pretty much all bases, honestly.
All right. Very cool. Well, Izzy, I appreciate you sitting down for this interview.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, Ryan. I sincerely appreciate it.
You have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.